Our message text for today is Matthew 13:31 through 32. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. The children come forward. I know this is a little unusual, but I'm looking for a little bit of help before we start the sermon. So if I could get some help up here, that'd be great. Now, have you guys seen these before? What are they? Mustard seeds? They do look a lot like fish food. I will give you that. All right, so I would like it if you guys could go and give everybody one of these. Well, you're going to want to grab more than one to go hand out. So here, why don't you?
I'm grabbing all the Hufflepuffs.
All of them are Hufflepuffs if we're going by color. Okay. Here, let me just do that. Why don't you put your hands out, and I'll do a little shake in your hands.
Drop the Hufflepuffs.
All right, and then if you could go give one to everybody, that would be great. And then come back up here, please. Okay. And if you haven't gotten one, please raise your hand so it's easier for them to see. These are really tiny seeds. Or just accept multiple ones, they won't know. All right, so I see a hand in the back there. Good job, thank you. I know we have one more thing that I would like some help with. I just think these are fun because you can roll them up after. All right, so if everyone could come up to the front. Did everyone get a mustard seed? We good? All right. You can hold them up if you want, but I cannot tell if you're just like if you're going yes or you good? Good? Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, you saw how small the seeds were, right? Now, I would like to know how tall you think they will grow. So that's a foot. Anyone want to take a guess? 40 feet? Wow, you're a good guesser. And then, anyone else have a guess? 1,000? Goodness, you guys are awesome, but overestimating a tiny bit. So would someone be willing to walk that way for a ways? All right, I'll tell you when to stop. Let's go a little slower, I'm not that fast. All right, thank you. And stop. 20 feet. So that, you can go ahead and set it down.
I was close.
Yeah, sure, you were close. And so that's how tall that tiny seed can grow to. Who has a seed?
It looks like 1,000 feet.
It does look like 1,000 feet. Is that even a foot?
No.
Is that a big thing to grow out of that little thing? Okay, I always thought so, but you guys are guessing 1,040 feet, so I mean, maybe it's not that impressive. But thank you very much for your help. I'll have you go back to your seat. Did everyone get a mustard seed of your own? Okay, so Jessa, would you please share your wealth of mustard seeds over here?
I only have one for me.
Adele, would you please share your mustard seeds? Thank you very much for your help. All right, I'm going to roll this up because it looks a bit like a tripping hazard. But it goes to the back row. Let you guys move. All right, thank you. These are just fun. I don't know why. Okay. So you might guess we're talking about mustard seeds today. My family has a knack for growing things. My grandma in particular. Many of our family are farmers or grew up as farmers, and many others are gardeners. As I was growing up, I looked forward to working in the dirt and water with my dad. Great excuse to make a mess, and no one got mad at you. Though picking weeds was never my favorite part. My least favorite kind are those that have the burrs. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a lot of different varieties. They're all annoying. You think you've gotten them, you think you've eradicated them, and then you figure out that for every one you've picked up, there are at least 3 seeds stuck in your shoes, and your socks, and your pant legs, and the dirt, just everywhere. A few summers ago, I decided that I want to cultivate a piece of soil in the front of our house. It was full of weeds and all sorts of this and that we had to take care of before I could do anything else. So I pulled the weeds, and then I pulled a few more, and then a few more. I'll admit I was very ambitious at first. By the time I decided that the area was big enough, I mean, how big do you really need a garden? My garden was about half the size I had planned on it being, but it would still be great. So I planted pumpkins and other flowers, like marigolds are beautiful. I don't know if anyone is a fan of marigolds here. Yeah, marigolds I really like them. And then when the weeds crept in, I'd take some time and pull them out again. My dad kept things fertilized because I have no idea how to do that, and occasionally watered because I was a little lazy. As my flowers were growing, I worried about the weeds choking out my plants of choice. As you probably know, weeds steal nutrients and energy that our plants need, but can sometimes be very stubborn and hard to get rid of. There are industries on this art of getting rid of weeds. If you'd like more personal experience with this, our church has a garden. I'm sure they'd love to have some weed pickers. Just letting you know, Clarkston, UMC, just talk to Tom and Hannah. Mustard plants are classified as a weed according to Google, and Google knows everything, so. Some kinds of these plants actually rank as noxious. Fun fact. Who would have thought that the kingdom of God would be compared to something so harmful? It is definitely not what I would expect. However, that seems to fit well in our faith as a whole. Very few things are what we expect or work out how we would prefer. Jesus' disciple Peter would probably agree. Peter learned from Jesus, was a devoted follower. He expected to be led to freedom, to always be with Jesus. When Jesus was torn from him, he was lost. He denied that he even knew Jesus. The weeds of fear and self-doubt that led him to deny Jesus overshadowed the faith that had started to grow in him. Fear was the enemy. It was an unwelcome weed that got in the way. But as the time went on, the resurrection happened. Peter continued his ministry. He became a faithful disciple, willing to risk everything for God. If you had seen him on the day that he denied Jesus, you would have never guessed what he would become. We all have moments in our lives where we are at the start of something great, and like Peter, find it is not an easy place to be. A couple of years ago, I was at a point of denying God. By denying that I had any sort of calling in ministry, I stubbornly knew that I was not going to be a pastor. It was too scary, wasn't going to do it. I'd be a worship chair, and that was it. No more. Line in the sand drawn, the end. So I was a little wrong, as you might guess, because I'm here. I even snapped at Pastor Cody when he suggested offhand that I should be ordained one day at some dinner at annual conference. It wasn't that I was upset at him, but because I was fearful. There is a responsibility that comes with being in the ministry. Not only do you have to find something helpful to share once a week, which I actually enjoy most of the time, you are included in many life events of those in your community, the marriages and the funerals, the birthdays and the illnesses. This is a great honor, but also a great responsibility. It's nothing like the responsibility Peter took on as one of the first disciples, but it's enough to leave me anxious and avoiding the ministry for a bit. And then there were all the changes that would have to happen to move toward ministry work. For example, I had to leave the area where my entire family lives. My family has been in Pomeroy since it was a county. Going to live in a place I'd never lived in, to study and learn who knows what, still figuring that out, year in. Change, the unknown, fear. These things stopped me before I was even willing to get started. However, after my conversation with Cody, he's actually kind of helpful, I took some time and was able to work through some of these feelings that were crippling me. As I sifted through all the weeds, I found a little small sprout of faith. It probably was not much bigger than the mustard seeds you guys have at this point. These last few years, I have been fortunate to have been a part of many experiences. I was allowed to be a part of the funeral of some dear church members and work with their family during a difficult time. We've started a youth group that has grown and thrived with and without my influence, which is one of the highest compliments, is when it keeps going when you're not there. There have been times of great stress and great joy. Through it all, my faith has grown to the challenges that arise. It's definitely not at its full maturity yet. It's far from the 20-foot mark. Still, I'm continuing toward a life of ministry. I know there will likely be times when the weeds of fear and doubt will try and choke out my faith again. After all, the circumstances haven't changed. The ministry I'm called to is the same. The idea of leaving my family is not made any easier after spending a semester away at seminary. This semester I'm taking online courses while I try and decide where I need to be next. Our circumstances are often beyond our control, just like those little pesky, sticky weeds that end up everywhere. We are what need to change. We need to grow strong enough to stand up against the weeds and pull them when they get in the way. Though our faith starts out as a small mustard seed, we are all called to see it grow and change. Just as there were hard times for Peter, there will be challenges for all of us as we continue to grow in our faith. That doesn't mean that we should give up, as tempting as it might be sometimes. Recently, our larger church has been put under a microscope. We're going to talk more about that at the Table Talks 3.0. General Conference 2019 left many hurt and broken, including me and many of my friends. Yet this is just a different beginning. I have no idea what this will grow into, but I have to have faith that no matter what happens, the work of God will continue. Even in the weediest of patches, there are a few seeds of faith getting ready to flower. The garden I planted produced many pumpkins and marigolds. A few pumpkins were even left after the deer came through. A few of them took one bite and were like, this is not worth it. We have not that great a soil around our place. Wherever you are in your process, however small you feel your faith is at this point, there is plenty of room for it to grow and thrive. There are many ways for this to happen. My grandma has a daily devotional reading she does. I feel the most connected to my faith and God when I am spending time outside, especially on gorgeous days like these last few days. There are also a lot of different ways to do self-care, and that's what those two are. In order to take care of others and pull weeds, we need to rest and take care of ourselves. So please take some time this week to find what helps your faith to grow. Perhaps try some gardening. It looks like it might let us. Knock on wood.